And folks, we are live. It is Talking Crit. I am Eric Tenkar. Below me, where he belongs, is none other than
Whoa,
Bad
hey.
Mike Battalato. Sorry, Mike. I was telling Alice you're like my work spouse, so I have to pick on you a bit.
Hot.
To me, stage right, but my left. Don't know how this shit works. Is Alice Lalla Peng. Thank
Yay,
you for
Alice is
joining us.
back. It's been so long since we had Alice on the show.
Yes. Oh, and by the way, I put up a special episode of the regular cast earlier tonight, and Rach was on it with me. We were talking about Paizo, and at one
Boy.
point I interrupted Rach, and she basically told me to let her finish and shut up, and then she referenced the McLaughlin report. And it's
Okay, it sounds really weird.
well, no, because she's like they always interrupted each other, and she was putting me in my. It's like McLaughlin report. Shut up and let me finish. I was like, okay. So if Mike steps on you, please tell him.
Oh, I will step on you too. You tell me to shut up because I am terrible.
Oh, you guys are great. Thank
get
you
a
for having
rant
me
going,
back.
yeah.
I've missed you guys.
Oh, we
missed you too. We've just we talk. We talk to you all the time. We just have.
Yep.
I mean, and actually, I've seen you a couple of times. You popped up there, and
Yep.
and you look great, and you look
Thank
you look so full of energy and happy and smiling, and so you look like Eric and I look gross as always. So
You guys do not look gross. You guys.
we're
look
happy
great.
to have you class up the show. Your class up
I
the show
still
a little
have that
bit. Nice.
COVID haircut. That means that
Oh,
I really need to.
You make me feel like I'm dressing so fancy in my Wonder Woman shirt.
Oh
No, not fancy, just clean.
I don't know.
We're
I
not
don't know
clean.
what my black T-shirt would be, but you guess. Wonder Woman works for you. I was wearing Wonder Woman. There would be questions.
Okay.
If Mike was
okay.
wearing Wonder Woman, I wouldn't question it. I would just be entertained.
Well, Gail Godot's got it going on. So does Linda Carter. So yeah, I have no problem pimping Wonder Woman. That's good stuff. Both good actresses. So this is we got 3 days before. I'm looking at let me see 3 days before Christmas, and so this is kind of we didn't really think about it. We just kind of were just scheduling stuff. And then last week we kind of had a weird show because not a weird show because we didn't really plan on it, but just so many crazy things happened. We just had to hit while the iron was hot, and we had Alex on the show and everything. So I guess we're kind of probably going to do a year-end wrap-up this week, or maybe next week we'll do a year-end wrap-up.
Between the two, there's been a lot to wrap up, and it has certainly been an interesting year in gaming, OSR and beyond. Actually, and that's just the stuff that can be publicly talked about. The stuff that you can't talk about publicly makes 2021 the year of holy shit. But that's
It was
find me at a convention and I'll tell you to your face. But you're not going to hear it on the record.
We're not going to tell you online. Yeah.
Back in 2020, everyone's like, I'm going to be so glad when 2020 is over. And Brandon and I were making jokes about the fact that, well, you just wait for next year because that's the year that 2021, WON, 2021. So next year is going to be 2022 as in TOO, right?
Oh, it's going to be a repeat. Yes.
Repeat of 2020. So it's going to be better than 2021, but not quite back to normal.
We would hope, right? I mean,
the universe does not pay attention.
Was a cursed year. I mean, I'm just...
the universe is not paying attention to your dates. I felt really sorry for all those people. Like, as soon as the clock turns to 2021, it's going to be a great year. I'm thinking, no, that's not how the universe works. It doesn't care what numbers we put on or times on there. It's just going to be the same shit, just different story. And it kind of was, and it did get a little bit. At least we were able to have North Texas, full North Texas, not the So that was fun. We got to do a couple of conventions. We got to get out a little more. But yeah, it was still a shit show, and. So be careful what you wish for, folks. It doesn't have to get better just because the calendar changed. It can still be terrible.
Mike, want to hear that?
But you can also take control of it and make it better. Make it, don't let it get to you.
That's why you're my cheerleader. She's my life cheerleader. She's just so. I was just talking about what an inspiration she is to me. She's just so. Alice really is inspiration. She's really awesome, and so.
Thanks.
She's going to talk about that just a little bit. We're going to talk about it a little bit while we haven't seen her that much this year. But well, aside from the forest fires, I know about the forest fires. That was, you told me that story. That was kind of scary. You actually had to move around, right, this year because of forest fires?
We were jumping around a little bit because fires got kind of close to our house the last few years. The closest fire got actually to the yard from our backyard. If we cross the street, several buildings were burned down from that one. So they got to across the backyard from us. That's the closest.
No, that's literally your backyard.
Yes, just across the street.
Yeah, like you probably had burning embers landing in your backyard. So yes.
Yep.
Oh, Mike.
West Coast has been crazy the last couple of years. I mean, it has been for the last decade or so, but the last couple of years have been really bad. I've had a lot of friends who've been displaced by the fires all along the West Coast. That's great that y'all were able to dodge that. But y'all actually had to jump in the car and drive somewhere.
Yep.
I mean, get the heck out of there. So how did you decide what's going to go in the car? You're like, okay, I got an hour, a day. I mean, how much time do you have to prepare?
Well, the old joke was proven somewhat right and somewhat wrong. The old joke was, we don't have any kids or pets. But if there's a fire, the first thing I grab is my computer. Well, Beast is huge. Beast, my tower is half my size. I'm 5'2", and not 5'3" after my surgery now, but but she is half my height and she is massive. So instead, I unplug my 2 external hard drives and book it with those.
There you go.
I always kind of have, I don't know if Eric's got this plan, but I've kind of got my abandon the house in the next 15-minute plan. I've got my hard drives I've got some of my safe deposit box, but and they're way out of date. But I've got some of my desk, and I kind of have this one desk drawer where I have the D&D stuff I've got to save, which includes a white box signed by Gary, so a couple other things. And other than that, there's going to be a lot of great gaming stuff that gets burned up or blown up or whatever if I have to run out, because I can only grab probably a bag or 2, and that's going to be it. My hard drives, a couple other things, and that's it. Yep. Sorry, the rest of it's unfortunate.
Gone. Yeah, I mean, I think
my wife. I'll grab my wife. I think I'll try to bring her along. Yeah, she probably would like to come.
Just Rachel and I. Just for our second floor, it would be the 2 of us, the dog, the cat. Probably grab one of my iPads, and that's it. I already have the emergency plastic metallic blankets and plastic metallic tent and water filtration in my trunk. So if I got to bug out, at least I have basic necessities already in the netting of my trunk. I just need to save. Again, I got most of my data on Dropbox anyway. So
that's a good idea.
Just give me a way to find it later, and I will survive. But it's scary. Because your home is your castle, but your home is your home base. It is where you can let your guard down, you can relax, put your feet up, walk around, naked in the hallway, and nobody's gonna bat an eye because it's your home. If you do that in somebody else's
I bet the dog probably doesn't want to see that shit. And
come on, the dog. First off, the cat doesn't give a.
Oh,
I
want to talk to your cat. I'd love to talk to your cat and see if they do give a shit, because I bet they do.
The dog gets excited when I get dressed, because the dog figures, oh, you're getting dressed, you're gonna take me for a walk.
The cat's like, Mike, Tenkar without his clothes on, man, it's bad. It's really bad. It takes a shot. Oh.
For us, there would be a lot of stuff that would hurt to leave behind, because our house isn't standard for most people's homes, because we don't have a standard living room. We have a giant game room, and then we have a giant game, and then we have games in the other room as well. When we moved in, we even made ourselves a promise. The games would stay in that storage room, and then we take them out to our game room to play. And then it just became our dining room hutch, our living room hutch, every hutch just filled with books and games, board games, and then there's the Wonder Woman, and just a lot. But we've actually gone to Dropbox also, because I've had 2 hard drive crashes in our evacuations. I don't know how they happened, but both of them has made me go, well, now we're just going to leave everything on Dropbox, because I've lost a lot of gaming stuff recently. So.
In the cloud, man, in the cloud. When the fires come, you want in the cloud. John Miller, does Alice have a website or somewhere else we could find her work?
Not really. I have been doing freelance work for a few different people, and apparently people like Mike like me. So right now, not really. But you can find some nice stuff on Fraka.
You can find Babies with Knives, and that was the I don't know, YouTube talk show. What would you call that? Your review show?
Well, Babies with Knives is actually, because we will be going back to it, is my YouTube for a platform where we can show people a wide variety of tabletop role-playing games outside of just the standard D&D or the gateway games that people often are introduced to, because there's thousands of games out there. I've been gaming for, like 25 years for tabletop role-playing. Before that, I was playing Mushes, and I was playing Genesis and all these, different consoles. But something I've noticed is that I deal with a lot of people who are like, oh, I know this one game. And I'm like, well, I've been gaming for all these years and I've played over 300 and I've barely scratched the surface. And you've never heard of any of these awesome games. So on Babies with Knives, we have these crash courses where in 10 minutes, we'll teach you how to play a game. We won't give you the details of like the minutia of the side rules or exceptions. But, if you go to a convention and the GM teaches you how to play a game the first 10 minutes, that's basically what it is in a bridge thing. We also have actual plays, and we have some Q&As, and we have with creators, and we also have some character creation demos where we teach people.
I'm glad you're going to get back to that. That's something I was going to ask you about. So that's good. That's good news to know, because I loved watching it. That's kind of how the Frogs got. We got kind of in touch. Zach had seen some Babies with Knives episodes. He said, hey, you got to watch this. I'm like, I don't really like that kind of stuff. He said, no, you'll like Alice and Brandon. They're really cool. So I watch it, I like it, and then one night you just popped on the Discord and started talking, and then I don't even know why Bill popped on, and then Bill suddenly said, yeah, we got to hire this girl for something. I'm like, okay. And I'm like,
good.
We don't really know anything about her though. And so I went, so that's when I actually went and watched some Babies with Knives. I was like, oh, she's cool. Okay. Yeah. This girl, yeah, she's really cool. And so, and speaking of which, I'm going to show you here. This is something she did for us at Frog on Games, Moondaughter's Fate. Very well written, one of my favorite adventures of the year. And I actually got to read the pre-pub of this, and I really liked it because it's based on Chinese folklore, and it is really, it's different. And that's the whole thing is, and so there's a story about why movie reviewers like really, really weird movies, is because they have to see 2 or 3 movies a week every week of their lives, and they get so tired of seeing rom-coms, buddy cop movies, whatever, that they end up liking. So you ever look at their 10 best list every year, there's always 1 or 2 just really out there weird, horrible movies on there, but it's because they get bored. And the same thing is, people like Eric and I, we read adventures like, okay, dungeon crawl, yawn, dungeon crawl. And so I love stuff like this because it is different. And I really
doesn't follow, I guess, the script that people are expecting.
No, it's just, the setting's different there too. So maybe Alice can tell us a little bit about it too.
Yeah, I'm happy to. So as far as within Western culture, a lot of people understand wuxia, being that martial artist, crouching tiger, hidden dragon, that gaming genre when it comes to Asian gaming. Unfortunately, there is an entire genre that isn't very often seen, and the only versions that you really see of it are always about Monkey King, because that is fengshen. Fengshen being basically, if wuxia is low fantasy or martial arts focused, fengshen is the high fantasy, the god focused, the exalted is actually somewhat fengshen, except for the fact that it is very much through a Western lens. So there's a lot of things in Exalted that is inspired by that genre, where if you go and watch Chinese, old Chinese movies and epic Chinese high fantasy movies, all these gods are jumping around in the skies and mountains and fighting each other, and there's a lot of magic. But there's also a set of rules. They can't interact with, they can't interfere with certain humanities' problems and certain issues. So they always find ways around it. And that's actually something I did, was there are these gods that are involved in that adventure. And they decided, well, I want to do this, get this done. I'm trying not to give too much away, but one particular goddess is mad at another god. The god that she's mad at, she can't get to because of certain rules. So she decided, hey, there's this power mongering person, and let me just corrupt her some more and use her as my mastermind villain. So the villain goes about and does some awful things with direction to the other god, and the PCs come in when some things have already happened, and they have to try and figure out how to fix things. Something for me is that when I write modules or when I write adventures for things, I'm not the dungeon crawler murder hobo type. I like to develop mystery. So this is definitely not a murder hobo mod, because at the end, I've provided several options and several guidelines to additional options that you can go about concluding the module. And trying to kill certain things may not be the best possible solution for the world. If you're going in going, I want to be the hero.
Oh, but killing things is so much fun in games.
That's one of the reasons I liked it. I liked it because there's not a railroad. I mean, if you want to kill things you shouldn't kill, you can kill them. I mean, and that's what I like. I hate modules that are absolute railroads. Like, okay, you can only do this. Then if they do this, it's more. This is kind of open form. Like, hey, you could do it this way or this way or this way. And yeah, characters can really f this adventure up too. But it still has a conclusion, even if they f it up. There's still a way it ends. So I like that. I like that stuff.
2 f up options. Because we all know your party's going to F up. So therefore, so I'm going to cover your butt by giving you a few options if they screw it up.
Yeah, no one wants to see an adventure, which TSR even wrote some of these. Where if you want to read some really horrible adventure design, and this was the way it had to be, because I've talked to some of the creators over the years at the convention. Read some of the Indiana Jones adventures that TSR put out. They are horrible because they all have to have a certain outcome at a certain time. And there's one really famous scene in one of the modules where you have to get on this boat to go somewhere. And it literally says that the characters don't want to get on the boat. They basically they get knocked out and they wake up on the boat. So there's no way you're not getting on the boat.
Come on. What do you mean?
We leave the docks. No, you can't leave the docks. No, we're going to leave the docks. Okay. All of a sudden you hear a bonk on your head and you wake up and you're on the boat. What the hell? We were leaving the docks, but I don't want to go here. What about my maid? She's 16th level. No. You're on the boat now.
You're on the boat. I actually, one of the earliest adventures that I actually reviewed on RPG Now / Drive-Thru, and I can't remember the name of it, but again, I was a reviewer and I got a free copy of this piece of crap. If you left to the predetermined adventure path, these balls of magical electricity would shock you, literally shock you to get you back onto the path. And if the players resisted enough, it could kill them. And I was like, talk about being heavy-handed to keep people on that path. But we have a question for Alice.
Yes.
From John Miller. I recognize the first term that Alice mentioned, wuxia. But what was the second term, the other type of Chinese fantasy genre?
So for Fengshen, the genre is the term comes from Fengshen Yangyi, which is Investiture of the Gods. It is a book that's kind of like the Chinese version of Lord of the Rings, where it was where the author created this book of high fantasy born out of lore from different regions of China. So he kind of took a little of this, a little of that. So there's a lot of roots of really odd magical history, or history, mythology, etc. And he created basically a mythos out of it, and so it became the platform of which a lot of this genre grew from. So it's kind of like the Lord of the Rings of the genre, and it's called Investiture of the Gods is what you would look for in English. It's kind of a weird read. I'll just warn you now, because translations get a little weird, but there's a lot of cool aspects to it, and so it's all about those magical creatures, about these shapeshifters, gods, or animal spirits that are mini gods and such like that.
And for those who don't know, there is an entire movie genre. I mean, so I kind of got, so I had a friend in college who was a big movie buff, and I knew nothing about any movies that weren't American movies. I was an American movie guy, and he's like, man, because he was in the thing earlier, like, Star Wars is just all these Japanese martial arts movies. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, no. You got, and so because if you don't know it, Lucas stole everything in Star Wars from Westerns and Japanese, well, not just Japanese, but Asian. Yes. And so
when it comes,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Alice. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying. So I started watching these movies, and that's when I finally follow stuff like the Seven Samurai. That's just kind of like Magnificent Seven. Oh wait, the Magnificent Seven was based on Seven Samurai.
Right.
Oh, okay. This is kind of cool because this is an entire genre that I haven't looked at very much. So I really started watching a lot of that when I was in college. It was really quite the revelation that they have their own mythology and their own, and like I said, a lot of American movies borrow from this, and you don't realize it till you see the actual original Asian version.
Well, we're dealing with an age where cancel culture says that cultural appropriation sucks. Everything's cultural appropriation. But if you go back in history, our modern world wouldn't exist at all without cultural appropriation. Because, for example, while Chinese invented paper, most people don't know that the Middle East invented writing. So writing was invented in the Middle East, then crossed the Silk Roads, and so the original number system that we have of the theory of 1, 2, 3, 4, not the way we say it, but the way that we do 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., that was invented in China, then translated, then moved through back to where writing was created, and they created a writing for it, and then it became the Hindu Arabic system. And so we wouldn't even have our number system today. This actually really makes me laugh because I recently saw that a big marketing firm did a survey, and 56% of Americans feel that Arabic numerals should not be taught in American schools. And it's because most people don't understand what Arabic numeral system is. They think that it's something completely different than 1, 2, 3, 4,
Right.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1 through 0, guys, is the Arabic. So to me, and when it comes to Japanese culture, they are the American culture of the East. What I mean by that is that Americans like to borrow everything from every culture, and this is us. American culture is a very identifiable culture that is created from a bunch of Asian cultures, a bunch of Western cultures, Scandinavian, like every white, brown, black, Asian, whatever culture you have, it's all smashed together. Japanese is the Eastern version of that. And that's why Japanese and Americans get along so well. Culturally speaking, Americans will identify with something being Japanese a lot more quickly than identifying it with their original roots, because Japanese took a lot of things like, for Kitsune, Ninetails, the Ninetails fox spirit. That is a very popular in American minds, and that is Japanese. Precursor to that is the Hulijing, which is basically the same thing, but it's Chinese by hundreds of years. And Japanese certainly have their own things that grew from it, just like Americans. After we amalgamated into our culture, we've transformed it. Like, what a taco is here in America with the crunchy shell is not what you get when you go to Mexico, where it came from. Stuff like that. Lots of different things. So, and that's a big difference.
Well, but it's true.
Okay.
American culture is an amalgamation of so many other cultures. It was right from the start. I mean, we came very close to speaking German in the United States only because the founding fathers wanted to make a full break from England, and German was the second most spoken language. And they were like, you know what? We'll just have no official language, but we're going to default to English because it's the unofficial official language.
Every food we eat, I mean, how many Native American foods we eat? Very, very, very few, unless you're eating maize or, corn. Pretty much every food that we eat, like, you could spend days just eating food that really all it is from other countries. I mean, it's not. Now we Americanized it. We've Americanized pizza. We've Americanized tacos because we have Tex-Mex. Alice and I will get an argument about Tex-Mex food because I know she likes traditional Spanish food, and I prefer Tex-Mex. It's true.
I think there's
do.
benefits for both. But if I have to give up one, yes, it's the Tex-Mex that I'm giving up.
Stop it. And so when we were down in South Padre for the month, I did eat at some very traditional Spanish places. I want you and you and Zach to know that made everything very traditional, like all the tacos.
Spanish or Mexican, those are two very different.
Right.
I love food from all over the world.
It's different because what's cool down there is they have Mexican, but they also have South American. It has a huge influence down the valley in South Texas. There's a lot of South American cultures down there. So yeah, I ate at both South American traditional and Mexican traditional places. So I did miss my Tex-Mex though. There's actually not a lot of Tex-Mex places down there, which makes sense. It's right by Mexico. Now some places cater to Tex-Mex, but yes, but yes, all our food. I mean, spaghetti's Americanized. I mean, there's so many foods that we eat. Even a lot of the DFW area has a lot of Indian restaurants, and the Indians, although the Indian people, their country's huge. There's not just one Indian food. It's like saying, well, I'm here from America. I'm going to cook American food. I'm just going to cook cheeseburgers or something. I mean, there's Nepalese. There's every area of India has its own type of food, and a lot of it's Americanized and just called them Indian food. We just call it Indian food, but it comes from different cultures.
And same with Chinese food, and similar to many other foods. But yes, because in India there's Punjabi, which is my favorite, and then there's just a ton of others. I won't get into all that. But Dandelion Games did mention something that I wanted to address real quick, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lou.
So I want to address this because I've been asked to by multiple people, and this is a good time, I guess. I am in ABC. I am American-born Chinese. 我是中国人, but I'm also American. I do speak Mandarin fluently. I grew up in a very traditionally Chinese value household. Everything was very traditionally Chinese in our house, and America was outside the door. So because of that, I grew up with a lot of immersion in the Chinese culture and the rules of that. I even lived a couple years in Taiwan with my grandparents. Recently, I know there's a lot of people that have commented that Oriental Adventures is racist. It's horrible. There was a time in my gaming life when I looked at certain games like L5R, Exalted, Oriental Adventures, stuff like that. And I'm like, that's not Asian. However, as I got a little bit older, not much older, but a little bit older, in my 20s, I realized that is Asian. That's Asian culture through a Western lens. That's how, and given the way that our world works, everyone does have a different lens, and everyone should be allowed to have that different lens. And to me, Eastern culture through a Western lens, Asian culture through a Western lens, is a very valuable tool to get you guys through the gateway. To me, it's like D&D. It's a gateway game. It's a gateway culture step. It's a stepping stone so you understand a little bit more of the culture, and then and a little more and a little more. And then as you immerse yourself more and more, you're like, oh, that had it wrong, that had it wrong, that had it wrong. But I now know that, and I'm more interested. To say immediately that someone who created Oriental Adventures out of pure love of the culture, maybe not pure understanding of the culture because of a lack of pure immersion or understanding of why we do certain weird things that Americans go, what? Doesn't mean that it is bad or racist, because there was no intention of racism behind it. They weren't doing something like, when I played WoW, anybody who plays WoW knows that there's this whole thing about Asian farmers, right? So at one point, I was trying to buy an item off somebody in general chat, and the person had no idea I was Asian, but the person, I guess, was just trying to be crazy that day. And I say, how much? And he just tried to imitate an Asian farmer and go, ching chong, all Chinese are, and I don't know if we're PG, so I will skip the word.
Oh, no,
yo, you go for it.
Yeah, I dropped
ching chong, all Chinese are fast.
Yeah.
So I immediately went, okay, screenshot, send this to my guild, send this to my friends, and report this person. Turns out the person got banned for a few days. And what's even funnier is I became really close friends with a bunch of his guildmates without ever knowing that he was associated with them. So it was kind of funny. But I want people to love stuff like Oriental Adventures. I'm not someone who says that's racist, stay away from it. So Dandelion Games, I'm really glad that you got into that. I hope that makes you want to explore it more and get into more of it and understand more of it. Like in my module, I mention I drop a few things, like there's there is a precursor to geishas in the Chinese culture where it's the musical institute thing and set up by a certain emperor. And I did make a small reference to that as one of the pre-gens that you can play. You come from that institute. You're basically the precursor to geishas, has similarities to how a geisha works, or the Asian bard will go about that.
Very interesting.
I mean, part of it is that
thank you, John.
We take for today, 2021, we take it for granted that we have access to the internet and we can research any topic and get hundreds, thousands, millions of links. If I want to investigate legitimate, I don't know, Japanese culture from the years 400 to 650 AD, I'm sure I could do so on the internet instantaneously. Back when Oriental Adventures was being written, you got what you had in your encyclopedia, you got what you found in your movies, you got what you found in your local library, or maybe your local college library if you were going a bit further, but you didn't have those resources. Absolutely. So you're kind of penalizing a lack of resources by today's standards for something that was written 40 years ago, well, almost 40, 35.
Resources aren't the only thing, because when it comes to culture, some of it is immersion. And so some of it, people can research it all they want, but without the context of understanding and seeing, it'll still come across incorrectly, which is something that some more recent games have suffered from in spotlights, which I think is also a shame. But yes, resources are abundant now. And the, cultural little quirks in some of the things can be very different. Like, for example, Chinese, it's very important that you never stick your chopsticks straight up in your food. Do you know why?
No clue.
You're offering it to the ancestors or the gods, and therefore, once you've offered the food, you should never eat it again. And if you ate the food before you offered it, then that's double bad juju. So don't ever stick your chopsticks straight up in food, because it represents the incense. And the other thing is that in rural China back in the day, it used to be that people who were too poor to really buy incense and whatnot, they would take a bowl of rice and take 2 sticks or 2 straws or 2 chopsticks and put it on someone's grave as their grave marker, as an offering of last rites and such like that. So, little quirks that you wouldn't know unless you lived in the culture. Or my mother would have a fit if I ever wore white in my hair. Why? Because you wear white in your hair when you're mourning the dead. And so I bought a white scrunchie and she went ballistic. She's like, "You mourning my death already? What's my funeral?"
Yeah, that'd be a little bit of a faux pas. Yes.
Right. So, as a little kid, I'm like, what did I do wrong? What? So, there's a lot of little things and things that you don't understand until you experience it. And I fault no one for that. I think that go for those gateway cultural stepping stones. That's my vote. Just like go for gateway games, because if you start with a game and then you go, "Hey, I want to play more," then come to Babies with Knives or other places that you can learn about other games. There's tons out there.
By the way, folks, I got to apologize. I'm still catching up on comments and.
Oh no! Did we get some goofballs?
No. Alice, oh my God! So Alice sent a link to the Investiture of the Gods. So this is again.
Oh, there you go.
If you want to educate yourself a bit, this is a great link to go to. I will make sure that I include it in the show notes so people can find it. But in the meantime, I got to figure out where I was in all these comments. You people are noisy buggers today. Thank God.
Yeah, Alice has got everybody buzzing because usually it's just like, oh, it's the 2 fat old white guys there.
Well,
yeah. Boom, Alice is on. Whoa, yeah, let's do it. Yeah, let's.
Yeah, well, it's just. Come on,
I guess we know who we need to have on more often, more than once a year.
Wait, we don't want more fat white guys?
No, not us. No, not more fat white guys.
Oh, okay. I'm just double checking because I know old fat white guys in large numbers. I could fill up the screen.
More smart, sweet, smart Asian girls. That's what we need, obviously. So we need to.
Thanks for the compliment.
Start loading it up. No.
John Miller, Oriental Adventure seems more Asian than original D&D was European. Ironically.
Yeah, original D&D is a mess. I mean, if you look at Gary Gygax's list of this is what we based it on, you quickly realize that there's really not a lot of Clark Ashton Smith in here, or there's not a lot of Lovecraft in here necessarily, not Conan. It's pretty much cribbed from Lord of the Rings. I mean, almost every single trope in there it's just this. First of all, it's a war game background, right? Because everything's war game. That's why there's all this loving descriptions of pole arms that your characters never used. Never brought a glaive goose army into the dungeon, and
well, speak for yourself.
You had 10 hallways. Those things are like 8 foot long. You're trying to get that.
Yeah, so listen, just you gave that stuff away in the dungeon, so people would have like a +4 item they could never use.
Yeah, here's your +4 halberd. Oh, halberd's 10 feet long, and I've got
halberd 5. I remember that. Sorry, sir.
But yeah, so the original D&D, like it just had these really quasi-European setting, but really it was kind of a mixture between wargaming and then a lot of Tolkien. There was a lot of Tolkien in here, no matter what Gary said. There's a ton of Tolkien in there. Really, if you read the Appendix N stuff, which I took a year and I read a lot of the Appendix N, the biggest influences are probably Jack Vance. Definitely his spell system, and plus just Jack Vance books in general. It's just Gary loved the guy, Jack Vance. But the thing about Conan, everybody points to Conan as being influenced. It's really not, because Conan was a solo. Conan's like a solo adventure. Every Conan story is Conan going and kicking some ass by himself. He doesn't really get a party of adventurers together. That's more Lord of the Rings kind of trope there, that, hey, we're going to get all these guys together. Here's an elf, here's a dwarf, here's a couple of hobbits, here's some humans, and boom, we're going to go off into the dungeon. So yeah, it was very very not accurate in that way. But probably the worst thing that ever happened to D&D in a lot of ways was that was the main trope for a long time, until they really got to the end of the 80s and early of the 90s. They said, hey, let's do stuff like Ravenloft, Spelljammer, Planescape. When they said, look, we have this D&D game, we don't have to do this quasi medieval European type world. We can do other things. We can do Dark Sun. We can do Planescape. Until then, though, it was just kind of like, okay, here's the world of Greyhawk. Here's even Forgotten Realms. It kind of opened it up a little bit, but it was still kind of this is a lot of traditional fantasy tropes here. So it's a bad example of D&D is a bad example of European stuff. And you're right. Probably Oriental Adventures is probably much closer to its source material than D&D was to its source material.
There's a lot more Asian influence, but certainly through a Western lens. And so, I wanted to defend Oriental Adventures a little. I know I'm in the minority, especially being an Asian, I should represent. So,
how dare you?
You did
exactly.
Because
I am
appreciate the point of view of both sides, and that's really what this should be about. It's
yes.
You can't have a legitimate discussion. You can have an argument without listening to somebody, but you can't have a discussion without at least digesting what the other side is saying. You might disagree with it still, but at least you have to understand why and where they're coming from.
Absolutely. And if you don't expose yourself to a wide variety of viewpoints, then you don't actually get a good sense of what the world is like. I have, I have friends from all walks of life, all sorts of opinions. And do I agree with a lot of them? No, because I walk away and I'm going, you do you, I'm good. But you know what? I listen to them. I digest it. I take the points that I can agree with, and I try and validate as much as I can and have conversations, and I feel that there's a lot of that needed in our world and in gaming, especially because with a lot of these, knee-jerk, oh my gosh, this is racist, oh my gosh, this is wrong, this is sexist, things that when people aren't digesting a lot of where it's coming from and our history, we're dooming ourselves to repeat more divisive history. And we are actively showing that because our gaming, our own hobby is becoming this polarized political minefield that I'm like, I don't know. I'm not trying to be political at all. I'm not woke. I'm not unwoke, but this is gaming, guys. There are different origins for different books. Take what you want, leave what you want, but don't automatically assume everyone's out to get you, because they're not. Somebody who wrote this book loved what they understood this subject to be. and maybe they weren't from your culture, so they didn't understand it properly at the time that it was written. Oriental Adventures. I mean, like I said, when I first read it, I'm like, what? This is what they say Chinese and Japanese people are. I'm gonna go get my Japanese friend, and the two of us can dissect for you Chinese and Japanese parts of this and what's not. Okay, but seriously, like took me a few minutes, took me a beat, and I'm like, hey, this is what the person loved. Awesome. They loved Asian culture. They want to learn more about Asian culture. I would love to show them more Asian culture. Brandon and I have been together for 23 years. I am still teaching him new foods. As of last month, I introduced him to brand new food.
Oh, that lucky man. Oh, he's so lucky he gets to eat all those great foods. It's great.
Speaking of which, Bad Mike, can I please make fun of you just a little bit?
Why not? Everybody else does. Join the party. Come on, bring it on.
I just want to bring attention.
I just want to bring attention to something.
I want to bring attention to the most epic pronunciation of Sichuan I have ever heard. Because
I did. I stepped in that one. Yeah.
he called it Saskatchewan for Sichuan. Or in English,
and I know how it's pronounced. I just got flustered that one time. I called it Saskatchewan.
It was awesome. I loved it. It's gonna stay in my mind forever.
Szechuan. It's Szechuan, right? Is the correct pronunciation?
Yeah, English would be Szechuan. In Chinese, it's Sichuan.
I called it Saskatchewan. I did call it Saskatchewan. Like there's some great Asian food being the great north of China. It's being made in China. Not China, Canada. Canada makes this great type of Asian food. That was me.
My father was born in Sichuan, and he's half Sichuan, half Hunan. So he would joke that he teased me on Thai chili peppers, and the reason why my sister is a spice wuss is because my mother wouldn't let him teeth her on chili peppers, but he teethed me on chili peppers, so that's why I can eat ghost peppers and go whatever, because I'm blooded. I'm Sichuan blooded, so I have the blood of the spiciest food in the world. So bring me the spiciest food, and I'm like, more. So, but yes, that was epic. Saskatchewan. That was epic. Stop. So I loved it.
Stop. Let's all forget that. We're gonna forget that happened.
Before I became a cop, I worked retail in downtown Flushing. Downtown Flushing is a huge Chinatown outside of the one in Manhattan. And I was eating, which I didn't even realize then. It's like, wow, there's I don't know this menu. I don't recognize from my local Chinese restaurant, but took recommendations. Great food. I couldn't tell you what the stuff was called again because I was eating authentic Chinese food, which is not like American Chinese food. Now, I'm lucky in my neighborhood. We have American Chinese food, and we have a very large Korean and Chinese population in my neighborhood. So we actually have authentic Chinese restaurants. And I have a friend that's Malaysian that speaks Chinese because he has a Chinese wife, and he's offered to take me to one of these restaurants so I can relive my experiences from like 30 years ago when I didn't know any better and was willing to take those chances.
Come to my house. I cook authentic food from China, from Vietnam, from Korea, from Japan, and I
road trip. Let's do it.
From India. I primarily cook Punjabi food. I even make roti and I make parathas from scratch from atta that I buy. I buy good atta. I make all of that from scratch. So come here, I'll feed you as long as you don't mind a bit of spice in your food. I have over 60 spices in my spice cabinet.
Look who popped in! Look who popped in here. We have Zach Glazer, who threw us $5.
He heard food. He heard food.
Yeah, he heard food. Alice. Alice was on. He heard food. Alice and food. Bing bong. He was all in. Yeah,
and Ty is also in the room. Look at that. Look at that.
We got Ty. We got this is the year-end show, man, or the next year-end show. We got
next will be the year-end. It's a warm-up for it, but and Mike.
Eric and I have no illusions. This is not for us. This is for us. We have no illusions here. Not one illusion. This is all for us.
I'm going to talk out loud, Mike, and Alice, this is just a huge compliment to you too. But I swear to God, if we had Alice and Rachel do like their own show talking about the gaming culture once a month, I think it would blow our numbers away any given day of the week. Because they both bring perspectives that us old grognard fucks have long ago left behind. And Their energy, both of them,
don't worry.
is huge.
I'm older than you think, Eric. I'm older than you think.
She's got the Asian thing going. She looks like she's 25, and she's probably 63.
I'm 54.
But she looks like she's 25.
Mike is knocking on a number larger than mine.
I'm 58.
So
I'm pushing it.
You're younger than us.
I think Alice graduated before me, so she's actually 59. But look how good she looks.
Yeah, no way.
She's got the Asian.
I'm not that. No, I'm not quite that old. But yeah, I'm not young either.
Listen, have you cracked 50 yet?
No, I have not cracked 50. I cracked 40 this year.
You cracked 40 this year.
No way. That's ridiculous.
10 years ahead of you.
Yes. That's crazy. Oh, Rachel's ridiculous too.
Yeah,
well, I'm lucky because my wife's older than me, and she looks absolutely fantastic. If you've seen her in person, she doesn't look any. She works hard for that though. My wife eats well and she works out every night, so she works hard for how good she looks, and so we're all very lucky. We're all myself, Eric, and Brandon. We're all lucky that the women in our lives are extremely. Extremely attractive. Unlike Brandon looks okay. Unlike Eric and I, Eric and I gave up a few years ago. He retired. He doesn't care anymore. I just don't care anymore.
I didn't care for the first couple of years until I got the heart failure. Then it was like, oh wait, I guess I got to work out 30 minutes a day, walk the dog constantly, eat healthier, cook my own meals. And by the way, by doing all this, I'm also helping out Rach because now she's exercising and she's also, getting home cooked meals. But these are things you have to do if you wish to stick around to what was it? If 50 is the new 40, right? I want to stick around to like when 100 is the new 70.
Oh, dear.
I want to be that obnoxious person.
Well, Alice brought up something that I want to talk about just a little bit more because it kind of ties into a lot of things that we're probably going to talk about. Well, actually, we can talk about it now if we want to, but about how her reaction or adventures, she felt like, well, that's not really, people are surprised because I'm Asian, and yet I didn't mind the fact that, it was a product of its time, this and that. And it's funny because Eric and I get in trouble all the time because we equally insult somebody like new TSR, that stuff, and yet we also insult Watsy, and I mean we were just equal opportunity. If you've done something stupid, we're gonna hammer you for it. We don't care. And so people are so confused by us. They're confused because the way our society right now is hyper politicized. You're either one side or the other. You can't be in the middle because you're if you're in the middle, you're not really choosing a side. But sometimes both sides are right, sometimes both sides are wrong. So we get in trouble with that all the time because we're like, yeah, here's this week in gaming stupid. Watsy probably won it 100 times this year because they're just there's not 100 weeks in the year, but they could have because they just did stupid things every week. Yeah, so when Lanasa came up and started his business, we were hammering him, and people were like, wait, we don't get this, man. Y'all are like conservative right wingers, which we never said that, and we don't go by any labels at all. And we're like, no, we aren't going to give people like that a pass because you think that that's our political persuasion, which is it's not in a lot of cases, Yeah, you just have to take everything as it comes. You can't have these preconceived notions going in because I saw a lot of good people at first were really taken in by the new TSR stuff because like, man, this guy's going to make some new TSR stuff. It's going to be just like old stuff. And once they watched our videos, I mean, they're like, oh, we didn't realize that. Oh, so it's not really TSR. It's just this dude from New Jersey who runs a tattoo parlor and Ernie's there too, but they really haven't written anything. And okay, well, they were all ready just to get behind this thing until we're like, oh, put the brakes on. And then of course, then Eric had a lot of. We've had our stalkers now because, or I don't know if they call them our stalkers, whatever they are.
I have negative fans. Is that
trolls? You have trolls.
Pretty much trolls. Yeah, pretty much.
Right.
One of the reasons I did not ever want to do podcasting. And it took them a very long time. It took my friends a very long time to get me to start doing that was because I have a thin skin when it comes to trolls. And it can, negatively impact my mental health. And I had to work on that. Like in a certain comment that was quickly deleted. It was, I there were some memorable ones. I'll go with that. And it's, it's not fun because, and we're all a collection of people. We all have opinions. We shouldn't be labeled as conservative or, or right wing, left wing, whatever. I think gaming should be a collection of people where people can come together. So that one thing about Babies and Knives, we try really hard to be completely apolitical because
that's one thing I loved about it. When I first watched it, I was very impressed by the fact that you were not like 90% of the other bloggers where you had a really active, this is the point of view we're going to push. And I was really impressed by that when I first saw Babies and Knives. I thought, well, 90% of these people, they have these YouTube channels are trying to push a political point of view. And they get the troops to rally and rah, rah, rah. And you guys were just kind of, I couldn't tell what your political affiliation, which is the way it should be. You should just be able to play games or talk about games without saying, okay, who'd you vote for? Okay, where do you stand on this? No. It should be, and I know Doug took a lot of flack from North Texas because we don't allow politics in the game room. And then if you don't allow politics, you're really being political. I know Eric has taken a lot of flack about Tenkar's Tavern because it's a neutral ground. Well, you're not neutral because, if you're neutral, And so it's just refreshing to hear that from people. It's nice to know there's people like that just realize that, look, you don't have to choose a side. You could just like what you like, And that's why Eric and I, like even the stuff with WotC, we get in trouble because we're like, because our basic philosophy, I could probably speak for Eric here, my work spouse, is just play the game you want to play. I don't care what you do at your table. Right. I really don't care. I don't care what WotC does to the game at all. I haven't bought WotC product in 10 years. I don't care. They can do whatever they want.
I care enough because I find it interesting and stupid.
Well, it's funny. Yeah, we laugh. And I tell Eric all the time, it just makes me laugh. I just laugh now because I can't take it seriously because they've become a clown show. They're an absolute freaking clown show now. And I just have to think it's funny, but that's not affecting my game. It's personally not affecting my game. I feel sad for kids growing up now that they get stuff like this week when, we're going to remove all mentions of slavery from all our products. I'm like, okay, so are you going to remove also murder and other violent crimes? I mean, is slavery worse than murder? It's not worse than murder. You can have a orc come in and kill a whole village, but they better not enslave those villagers. That's just awful. Let's just kill them all.
Well, it's you go in and you're supposed to be the heroes of the story, right? You're supposed to be the good guys. Well, there needs to be something to show you why this creature is a bad guy, why this guy is a bad guy, and why you need to do something to change the world. And so there are really atrocious things that happened in our real world, and yes, they are mirrored in games. So to remove them, you can whitewash a game, but you can't whitewash history. And something that I noticed is that framed in the right way, you can actually psychologically change someone's perspective on the world to go out and do something great. For example, many years ago, we were playing in our first superhero campaign, and some of the actions that my I am so sorry, Legion of Myth. That's terrible. I've seen people of all colors and all ethnicities wear cheap halls, and I've never had a problem with it. I don't think there should be any problem with it because a cheap hall is awesome. And yeah. But back to what I was saying. And what was I saying? Oh, yes. But yeah, I'm very sorry about that. What was my talk about before I had to feel sorry for him?
You were on a roll. You were kicking ass. Yeah. I don't remember what it was, but you were kicking ass. I don't remember what I have for breakfast every day, so asking me to call your conversation. Lost track because
I'm going to blame on the chemo. But
you're just so excited to be on our show. You haven't been on for a year. You're just, I know.
I'm really happy to be back. Thank you.
I know somebody
easing back into life.
Yes, and you look great. And I wasn't sure if you could, because when you were feeling better a few months ago, you want to be on the show, and I was real worried about you, and you improved so quickly. I mean, I was really impressed by how quick, because I figured this is going to be a long process, but it hasn't really been that long, and your quality of life has improved so much. I'm really happy for you, because I wasn't sure if you were going to make 2 hours tonight, and you're like, oh yeah, I can do your show, no problem. I'm like, all right, I'm worried about you.
2 to 4 hours every day, 6 days a week right now.
Wow, that's great.
Better, so yeah,
that is amazing. Well, you're a hard worker. That's amazing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, you're an inspiration. coming from somebody who can always use a little inspiration in their life, you certainly are. And don't make me pull rank on you and say, stop it. Stop it. Take the
you don't get imposters. No imposter syndrome around here. You don't get to do that imposter syndrome.
Don't worry.
If there's anybody that's gonna be imposters, it's me and Eric. We're the imposters.
We'll give you the opportunity to fuck up on something later, but for now, take the compliment.
Yeah, you've had a lot of people ask you in comments about where's your blog, where's your show. So you get back. You
Babies with Knives. Yeah, it's been on hiatus between Brandon's nursing school and then my health taking another hit. We have had to put it on hiatus. I'm definitely looking forward to getting back to it because there are a ton of games out there still needs to get some attention, and I want to play. I have thousands of games on my list that I want to play. It's been a year of very low gaming, and I need my games. I'm getting the shakes here. And I'm really excited to get back to doing stuff a little bit at a time because I really have to be very careful not to overdo things for, which is my tendency because I like to say, yes, 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 give me more. But I am already working on my next module for Frog God. It is not going to be Asian. It is not going to be Asian. It is actually pretty gothic horror. It's going to be once again a bit... it's not going to be, oh, yes, I was talking about my superhero game. I will go back to that in just a moment. Thank you so much, David. But yeah, it's going to be a gothic horror that's going to be a little sandboxy. It's going to be another mystery with a lot of different clues in different areas to combine together. And there's also going to be, once again, the option to F up and do it wrong. There's still a conclusion, but I'm giving different avenues of finishing it. And yeah, Zach knows a little bit about it. I've played with it since I've talked to Zach a little bit, and I'm starting to work on that in the preambles of it. I had a little play test of ideas with a few friends the other night. Regarding my superhero game, many, many years ago, we were playing, it was the first superhero game a number of the people at the table had ever played. And after one of the sessions, one of the players went home, and the next day he was out on the streets. He was going shopping with his girlfriend, I think, or something. But he saw an elderly lady trying to cross the street and who had bag groceries. And he ran up to her, and this is a college kid, and he's like, "Hey, can I help you?" She's like, "Oh yeah, I just live, 2 blocks down." And he helped her with her groceries to her house. He came back and he said, "That's what playing superheroes did to me." I saw her because I was playing superheroes. Without my superhero lens, I wouldn't have seen that she was like struggling with her bags and needing to be walked across the street to her 2 blocks to her house.
That's awesome. And that's awesome when that can impact our real life. That's great.
Yeah, no, I think that we should use gaming as a positive influence in the world and not a divisive one. So
have Ruins and Ronin was a game, but it's very much, there's not very much depth to Ruins and Ronin, unfortunately. That was a setting for old school games. That's basically using, if I remember correctly, that's using swords and wizardry
I believe you're right.
A Asian setting, but I have it and it's very light. It's not, there's no details in it. Now, Richard LeBlanc's Valley of the Five Winds uses a kind of a Mongol horde type setting. I don't know what you would call that. It's like kind of a Khan horselands type setting. That's the setting for Valley of the Five Winds. And he does Richard LeBlanc's a college professor, though. He's very, very astute with that kind of stuff. And so it's actually really good. But I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I don't know a lot of other settings.
Yeah. I mean, there's as far as like if you're talking really, really, really authentic culturally, or if you're talking about, Eastern content through Western lens, there's actually a fair amount of stuff out there that has a good deal of basis. I would say Exalted is actually really fantastic for what it does. It does amalgamate, similarly to Oriental Ventures, a wide variety of Asian cultures and lore into it, not just Japanese, Chinese, but Korean and Thai and a few other things. If you know what you're looking for on it, especially with some of the architecture. I love some of the Thai influenced architecture in some of the Exalted stuff there, but. Legend of the Five Rings actually has some cool stuff because there's, unicorns are very white. Then there's some, there are some different facets of Asians. I would not say that they broke it into so much Japanese, Chinese, Korean, etc. Asia, but they broke it into certain perspectives within Asia. And so it's more like cultural overlaps. So, certain clans have perspectives that are an amalgamation of multiple cultures in one, but it's the strong facet of one thing and a facet of gems as an Asian whole. But L5R did a very good job of a lot of things. The certain wardrobe choices, I would say that they needed to have a little better understanding of where Asian wardrobe came from and peasant wardrobe came from, because I remember mocking the Chingasa a bit on how they were having characters utilize that. But actually, it's really funny. So in ancient times, there's this. Basically, apparently, according to some Westerners, it looks like a hat, what Chinese or Asian hat. But Thais and many Asians use this. It's a rice washer, and it's this disc that kind of, I guess, in some ways, can look like a straw hat in some ways. Kind of like a bowl hat. But I actually dealt with recently a D&D character wearing that, thinking that was a hat. So they had it commissioned on their head, and I went, that's a rice washer. And they're like, oh, I saw it was a hat. Apparently you can go to, I don't know if it was Crate and Barrel, but it was an American, import-export company that was doing wall art, and they are selling a Thai rice washer, but they're saying it's Asian wall art. And so in one of the Asian groups, somebody posted, can I go get my grandma's or great grandma's rice washer and put it on my wall and say, I've got antique wall art?
Yes,
there you go. Make real money off it.
But people are using that as a hat. And so I was like, oh my gosh.
You got to be so careful. I mean, it's like the old story, which, it's true in a lot of cases where somebody they go overseas and they get a kick-ass tattoo that has Chinese characters, and they think it says, oh, the guy said this, this means a big strong man. Like, no, it means a duck with webbed feet, because either the guy wrote the letters down wrong, or he was trolling the guy, or whatever reason. So you've got to be really careful with that kind of stuff, otherwise you end up looking unintentionally dumb when you get called out on it.
Yeah, as for the Thousand Islands, I've seen some stuff on it. I thought it was really well done for Malaysian culture. And Malay is a great way it's an amalgamation of a few different Asian cultures very strongly in that too. So I've liked the little bit that I've seen. I haven't gotten to really play or investigate into that.
I hadn't even heard of it. I'm going to have to look that one up.
I heard about it a few months ago. Someone told me, hey, go look at that. So I want to play it.
Oh, so Dandelion Games, is that the thing that Raiden wears in Mortal Kombat?
The Chingasa, the cone helm. The Chingasa is it's that straw cone helm. Chingasa is was worn on plantations and farms to protect from the sun. Yes. But apparently there are some people that mix it up with the rice washer that they use while they're so it's kind of funny because the rice washer is is kind of more like this. It's kind of just like that with it's a very shallow bowl, I would say. Very large straw shallow bowl. So
Hoogly, the golden helmet of Mambrino was a shaving basin.
See, there you go.
There you go.
I'm just waiting.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for someone to come up with the magical item that's the hospital bedpan now. I guess we just need someone to start wearing the hospital bedpan.
That's a tough one.
Only it has to be a classic one from the 30s where it was still metal before it was plastic.
Yes.
Oh, I thought they're still metal. They're porcelain now, right? I don't know.
Well, no, you're gonna get a plastic.
I haven't had the pleasure in a long time. So I haven't had the pleasure ever. So thank God.
The new ones are more like plastic witch hunter hats look instead.
Yes. Or as a male, you can just opt for the urinal.
I'll just start going. I'll just keep using the toilet if that's okay with you guys. I don't know about that.
No, but sometimes you don't have that option, man.
I know. I don't want to think about
bed,
it.
they put the alarm on.
I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about pooping in the bed. I don't want to think about it.
Okay, next subject. Let's move on.
Oh, we're gonna have so much fun with this.
This is when it becomes old man talk. So
all
we're
right,
talking about pooping in the bed. Can you tell me
done
more?
We've done an hour with Alice. Everybody's bored of Alice already. We've done an hour with her, so we're gonna move. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, so let's. By the way, I didn't get a chance to send this to you, Eric. This is a new scoop for there. I don't know if you saw Ernie Gygax's email today, or his post. No. He is writing. Okay, what have we been saying for the last 6 effing months about new TSR? Is all they had to do was put out an adventure with Ernie's name on it, make it a limited edition, X amount of copies, and they could have made all this money up that they've been looking for. And damn it, if the couple weeks after we didn't bang that on the head a few times, Ernie says he is now writing a module for new TSR. So I wonder if they listen. I don't know if they listen to our show or not, but we've been saying that.
Listen, we get at least one downvote every day, so I know they listen to the show. So that's probably Alice Justin wouldn't waste his time listening. He's got somebody else.
No. So yeah, so Ernie is right, but I was so anyway. But the subject du jour and what we talked about, we didn't get a chance to talk about this a little bit last week, but we had Alex on. We were mostly talking about the legalities. So, and by the way, Mr. Beard has offered his fine services if you ever want to do a show like that again. So I think that'd be fun. We need to get every lawyer friend we have, and we'll just have them on the show one after another. If we ever had that happen again, just have all their different opinions and just go into it.
Mike, I got something before we. There's something that's timely.
Oh, okay.
All right. So today is, what day is today?
22nd, 23rd,
22nd. So.
Oh boy.
Star Frontiers notice of allowance issued on June 22nd, which means that if by the stroke of midnight, if by midnight tonight there's no response to the statement of use, guess what goes and expires? Star Frontiers.
So they're going to do exactly what Evil Hat did. They claim the trademark and then they're going to throw it back in the.
Wow, that's crazy. I just played Star Frontiers for the first time this week.
The original, the good
yes, the original. I just played the original Star Frontiers for the first time this week.
Nice.
And so
So I guess you've been. I don't know if you've been keeping up with Alice, but the new TSR bought the just the name. They bought the name.
I heard, but I didn't think they were going to.
They can't do the rule system. The rule systems. It belongs to WotC, so they just bought the name, and then they created a Die 20 modern version of Star Frontiers, which bears no resemblance to the original. And then they made 2 copies of it, and then they sold out. And so then I guess that's their claim. Well, look, we're publishing Star Frontiers. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, well, that's true. Crazy is the optimal word here we're looking for, because that's how.
Merry Christmas, Bruce.
They run this
Bruce,
company.
Thank you for joining us. And
yes,
Bruce will tell you to subscribe. Sorry, I said to do that.
Yes. Do it. But anyway, so the big thing this week, and this came out. We had a letter from Owen Stevens. Owen Stevens had a letter.
Well, here it was posted on Owen Stevens' blog, but it was from an anonymous freelancer for Paizo. So that tells me most likely Owen might have written it, maybe, perhaps.
I read it. It didn't read it like Owen's vernacular.
No, it didn't? All right.
No, I read it. It did not read of Owen's vernacular.
So it was basically complaining about projects and how Paizo was going to eliminate the concept of slavery in their published worlds because of sensitivity issues. And apparently WotC's following up on this by saying they're going to do the same thing. They're going they're going to no longer have slavery. Bad guys can't be slavers, is what it boils down to. They're just going to take it out.
I woke up to this news a few days ago, and I thought, surely this must be a joke, right? Because we can still have murderers and kidnappers and all these other things, but slavers, that's... I had an entire campaign where
listen, I'm going to draw the line at slavery. Slavery, no, but murder, yeah.
But they just collapsed.
What are bad guys supposed to do? Harsh language? Man, I'm off to kill the Red Wizards of Thane. They said they insulted my wife. We're off to kill the Red Wizards of Thane. Damn them to the pits of hell.
You can only
think about the economy of Thay. Poor Thay. No, I mean, I had an entire campaign in Forgotten Realms where the introduction of it was, okay, everybody, when you come in, you need to have been once upon a time a Thayan slave, and during travels you were bought by a wealthy merchant and set free, and you guys started a town with his sponsorship. And so now, going into the campaign, stuff's happening and you need to step up. And now I can't do that because they used to be slaves. Slaves don't exist anymore.
I have in my home campaign, I have a whole religion, the religion of Atar, who was a former slave thousands of years ago. He's now a god, and his followers, they oppose slavery, and that's their whole reason for being priests. And what they do is they wear their outfit is normal outfit, and they pose as slaves to rescue other slaves, and they cause slave uprisings. And that was a huge plot point in the campaign I did, because one guy read the description of them, loved it, and loved the whole thing. So he created this whole backstory, he did one of those things you don't want players to do, wrote like a 5-page backstory. I'm like, dude, your character is going to die like next session probably, but he made it on, and so he was instrumental in starting slave uprising. It was awesome, and the other characters went along with this thing like, this is cool, so they all kind of joined in. They had this whole plot, but it was a great plot line, but it obviously presented slavery as something not optimal and something evil and something to be destroyed. And this is just it's like they can't clown themselves anymore, think. And then
Mike, here's the slippery slope. This is where I think Paizo got himself into trouble. Because listen, I know my players, if you give them the opportunity to do something really stupid, but they think it'll be epic, they'll do it, right? You captured a goblin, you're gonna put him in a mining cart, throw oil on him, light him on fire, and then push the mining cart into the rest.
Are you playing with a bunch of 15-year-olds? I'm just
no. I play with a bunch of 50-year-olds, but this is what
who have the minds of 15-year-olds.
Yeah, whatever. Stop being so specific about it. But here's the issue. I think in Paizo's case, one of the products that was part of the Adventurers League's approved products that you could use, you had to refer to for whatever Adventurers League or whatever the Paizo League is. Included a price list for slaves, which in the eyesight of many players,
not a good idea.
Well, if there's a price list for it, then obviously
you can buy them. I got to make a purchase in the store. I'm going to buy a war dog. I'm going to buy some canteens. I'm going to buy 6 slaves too.
And I think that's where this whole chain of events in Paizo, and it became, oh my God, we got to remove all references to it now. Does all references mean it doesn't exist? Well, if all references are removed, and they're going to remove it without updating the lore beyond just saying we're removing it. Because you have blanks in your lore, but that's fine. But I can tell you one thing right now. I will stake my reputation on it. Those of you who have been looking forward to Dark Sun 5e coming to a no. Even if it was halfway written already, guess what?
Nope.
It is in the dumpster.
It is in the dumpster.
Dark Sun, the main theme of Dark Sun is
slavery.
It's slavery. So nope, Dark Sun. Those people that were hoping they'd see Dark Sun 5th edition, I'm really sorry. And like you said, there's probably some poor schmuck developer right now who's worked on it for 2 years, and he's getting the full call right now. Yeah, Bob, you might just want to. Why don't you move on to the next project, because we're really not open to that.
The rumors could have been true until this week. It could have been like, yeah, we're going to make Dark Sun.
I think there was smoke with that, or there was heat with that smoke. I really do, but yeah, not now. Things have changed dramatically in the past few weeks, and I don't think WotC wants to touch it with the 10-foot pole anymore. So
Dark Sun will be a lot of, and Dark Sun it's a blooded world, right? I mean, they drain life energy, plant energy, green energy.
But they're bad guys. They're bad guys.
Yes, exactly.
Bad guys don't exist anymore. Bad guys are misunderstood.
But
Yes.
a big part is that a big premise of this is that you're the good guy. And so what is the good guy? You need to show why the bad guy is a bad guy. Many years ago in Living Greyhawk, when Living Greyhawk was just starting out, they wanted it to be this ultra dark, ultra gritty a campaign. And for anyone who got to play, that different regions got in the real world got to play different regions in the game world. So I lived in the Theocracy of the Pale, and to my north and south were the Duchy of Ernst and Nyrond. Nyrond and Duchy of Ernst were my neighbors. And there was a module, and I can't remember for the life of me if it was a core. I think it was a core called River of Blood. It was basically one of my first LG modules, and I'd been playing LC. I'd loved it. And in River of Blood, when we sat down, Bart asked, I got to play with Bart Scott. Bart said, "Hey, we're all adults here at this table. So there's a PG version of this game that I can run, and there's an adult version I can run. We're all adults here. You guys don't need me to run PG, right?" I was early enough in my gaming career at the time to say, "Hey, sure, let's do that," because I didn't say, "Hey, what do you mean by adult?" First 5 years of my gaming life. Okay. In it, there are Zvarts that are living in the sewers, that are kidnapping children, enslaving them, and because of the size of children, they are doing things to the children. And the module, so at one point, a child falls out of a carriage, and a Zvart runs out and starts whipping the child. And it set me into a PTSD episode where I basically disassociated from the world for about a week, where for a whole week I was very, very out of it. I have used TTRPGs to work through some issues that, I had in my formative years since then. And for a few months, I was like, I don't ever want to play LG again. This was the worst experience of my life. But I went back, and I love Greyhawk now. I love Living Greyhawk. And you know what? It told you exactly why you're the heroes and why the bad guys are bad guys, because it gives you such a visceral reaction that you're like, no, this needs to stop now.
Right. No, and
so if you're whitewashing everything, why are you the heroes?
Yeah,
then again, I'm also seeing.
You're right.
I'm also seeing these alignment thing. There's an alignment article recently that came to my attention about how basically you in 5e you can be lawful good, gaining all the benefits of lawful good, gaining all the negatives of lawful good, but act chaotic evil, and not be penalized or lose lawful good alignment in any sort. And this is official standing in official article. And so there are people who are like, "Oh, I'm a paladin, but act as a blackguard. That's awesome."
And I get to torture people. Awesome, man. I get to torture people too, but yeah.
Torturing is the easier way to get the answer, yes, but is it the right way to get the answer?
No. But now here's a hypothetical, but not so much a hypothetical. You have spells in D&D like Charm Person, right, or Charm Monster. These are basically enslavement spells.
I'm gonna make a prediction right now. We're gonna see Charm Person be gone by the next update. I'm making this prediction. Right, I could be right or wrong, but I think I'm gonna be absolutely right. I think the spell Charm Person will be gone by the next update, which is supposed to be 2024? Did they say 2023? I can't remember.
Well, I think
2024. 2024 is the next update.
2024 for the anniversary.
I think they're going to get rid of problematic spells like Charm Person Suggestion.
Again,
I absolutely
stick with my prediction for the next iteration of D&D. It's not going to be going from 3 to 4E to 4A to 5E. It's going to be going from 5E to 5.1. It'll be mechanically completely compatible, because they don't want to ruin what they already have out there. But new packaging, removing certain stuff, and it's mostly going to be removing. It's not going to be adding stuff. It's going to be removing fluff, a little crunch maybe, but honestly, it's going to be changing the lore, and it's going to be maybe even packaged with Greyhawk, and they can just make Greyhawk a new. I don't know. Forgive me for saying this because I did play MMOs. It's going to be a new Care Bear version of.
You've never been more correct. The Care Bear version of D&D. That's what, man. As much as I don't want to dislike 5e, I'm gonna have to go with that too.
For
Alice,
anyone who's been saying that it's going to go directly into 6th edition, you should go look at the history of D&D because every edition gets a revised before it gets 6e.
Yeah.
It's not going to 6e next,
There's no
guys.
reason.
It's just not. There's no
reason for it to.
Or,
no reason.
or economical
right,
reason.
and you're right.
Yeah.
1e had Unearthed Arcana. That was 1.5. 2e had Skills and Powers at the end. That was 2.5. 3 had 3.5 on the cover. There was no hiding. 4e had Essentials, the little paperback.
Even 4th edition, the bomb of the dung drop of the system life of it got its 0.5. So yes, 5e's doing well enough; they will get a 0.5.
Yeah, and they don't want to. They've seen what's happened.
Why would they kill the goose that laid the golden egg, man? There's no. The sales are not going down; they're going up. It's going to be. But I'm just saying, when the rules change, they will make subtle changes, like they're making these changes to monsters. As WotC made they took out a lot of information about monsters in the last week or so of their official PDFs. And Eric did a great show on, and we had talked about this about. That's why you have physical books, because if you just have online books, they've already made so many changes to those books. You lost a lot of lore the last change they made because they took out a lot of information about beholders, the serpent man, stuff like that, because they're trying to eliminate all references to slavery or enslaving people and stuff like that.
Right.
So,
and here's the thing too. Remember, 5th edition doesn't really have PDFs of the core rules. It's all on D&D Beyond, which again, I'm gonna make another prediction. D&D Beyond is going to come to an end before the next revision to the game, because I believe Wizards of the Coast wants to bring that in-house. There's a reason why D&D Beyond's founders all jumped ship from a very successful project to start new projects because they knew that there was a clock that was limited. We don't know what the contract says, how long the contract lasts for, but that's my prediction. So, and also, we pretty much are damn well sure that Wizards of the Coast wants to do its own VTT. You're going to do your own VTT. You're going to want your own digital content. You want to control it. When there's no PDFs, it means, you're getting fed the latest core rule books from our server. Well, all right, we just decided there's no longer a Ranger class because Rangers offend us or whatever. Or Bards, because I know everybody hates fucking Bards. I happen to like, so fuck you. But all of a sudden it's gone. What are you going to do? Because you have your physical books, but when you're gaming via something like D&D Beyond,
you only have what they give you. Yeah,
recent version, and that's what's going to be there.
That's why tabletop gaming will never disappear, because you can do whatever you want at your own table in the privacy of your own home. You can have whatever game you want. That's one of the greatest things. That's why when Eric and I share these articles, because during the week, Eric and I talk like almost every day. We're sending each other articles. Hey, did you read this bullshit? Did you see this? Whatever. But the thing is, I laugh at it now. I just think it's funny because it doesn't affect me or my game. And I just look at these people making these decisions and thinking, what are you doing? What is this? I wanted to share my own story about we were talking about this. I remember early on when we started playing D&D, my mom asked me, why are there devils and demons in the game if this is a game about, this and that? I said, well, Mom, that's who we kill. This book, the Monster Manual, this is a whole book of monsters we kill. And she was like, oh, well, that's okay. That makes sense then. And that's the whole thing. Your goodness is defined by who you fight, right? And that's why demons and devils are horrible creatures. You're supposed to, they're going to change the world in terrible ways. When you eliminate all your foes and you say, well, orcs are actually, they're good most of the time. And slavers, there's not really slavery. I don't know why, but there just isn't. I mean, the orcs just go in the village and kill everyone. They don't really think about leaving anybody alive.
They're not going to use free labor. They're just going to.
They're just going to kill them all because that's the most efficient way of dealing with it. And when you start doing this stuff, you eliminate what makes heroes heroic. What is there to be heroic against if you don't have something horrifically awful and just terrible?
a while ago we were playing Iron Fang Invasion, and in Iron Fang Invasion, the start of it, you're driven out of the city, and everyone's, basically you either survive or you're driven out. And so the heroes basically evacuate as many as they can, and then you get out, and then you talk about, well, what's next? There's still survivors in there, and you realize, at least for my character, when I was explaining this to people about how important it was to go and get survivors, leaving them to live in there and letting them get captured was a fate worse than death, because being enslaved by those invaders and being taken prisoner was a fate worse than death. So I had to go back. There was no question that I was going back in.
It's a great motivational tool, right? It's absolutely a great motivational tool. We have to
death
rescue
is
these
easy
people. Yeah.
by comparison.
There's just no there's no prisoners ever. So like no monster is ever going to take a prisoner from here on out, because that could be construed as possibly slavery. So they don't ever take prisoners. That eliminates a huge trope of gaming, is to rescue the villagers or rescue somebody being held. So that's no longer true. I just don't get it. It's just it's like they're trying to solve problems that don't exist because they think they might exist. I mean, first of all, this is something that Paizo did. Paizo is about to run itself. Paizo is about to run itself into the ground. I mean, they won't. Paizo will not be around in any way, shape, or form in the next 5 years, because they're about to run themselves absolutely out of the industry. Why is WotC following it? They're not doing a lot right now. Why are you following a company that is on a path to destruction? Why? We're gonna do what Paizo did.
WotC, actually, a number of the changes that they have made have caused the changes that Paizo is making. And WotC has actually seen an exponential boom in their audience. And you know what? Their audience is not you. It's not Eric. It's not anybody on this podcast or watching this podcast. But they have exponentially boomed their player base and their audience base in what they have done as a gateway game. This is D&D is no longer what we grew up with. D&D is now the family board game of you go out, you buy a party game or a board game like Monopoly or Settlers of Catan, and that is what D&D is now. It's synonymous in these people's minds and when I deal with new D&D players, because I'm like, so you're a gamer, what do you play, Alice? I'm like, well, I play all these different things, and they're like, so it's like D&D. I'm like, yes and no. D&D is, I play a different version of D&D than period. But yes, I play D&D. I just don't play the D&D that because your D&D is like Monopoly, where my D&D is like Twilight Imperium.
That's why we have to have her on the show more often, Eric. She just broke it all down perfectly. But no, because you're right.
So WotC's not going to.
Yeah, but we talk about that. This is not our game anymore. This isn't our game.
WotC isn't dying. WotC has been gaining money and gaining traction in the media. They have their merchandise sales. Go check out their merchandise sales. It's ridiculous how much everyone wants to. It's like the new, oh look, I'm wearing Harry Potter, and I'm wearing D&D. It's the thing. I've seen people wear D&D sweatshirts that have never played D&D or don't know what it is. Where with D20 dice D&D, I'm like, oh, you play D? Nope, I don't play D&D. I'm like, okay.
You kids, you don't understand the struggle that was real back in the 70s and 80s when we had to hide our D&D books inside of folders to bring them to school and stuff.
Or when when you go up and you're like, hey, can I play D&D? No, you're a girl. Go away.
Oh no, we
were like, please.
Oh, I've dealt with.
Please, girls, please come play with us.
I've dealt with and that's actually the funny thing is that in my early years of D&D, I dealt with a lot of, there's no place at my table for you because you don't know how to play because you're a girl. That changed. And then in the divisiveness of the recent years, I've noticed more sexism towards me than I would say I dealt with even in the past. It's a different type of sexism.
They're blaming you for other people's sins, Alice. That's what it boils down to. Yeah.
And also, even the people that are the super accepting of who I am are labeling me before and saying, oh, I want you at my table because you're Asian and you're female.
You check all the boxes, man. You check every box.
Yeah. Hey, look at your creds, look at your resume, look at the fact that the way you role play, you do voices, you do, you love different systems. But instead so that's still sexism to me and racism to me because they're picking me simply because.
Sure.
And I'm like, not because of my energy, not because of who I am, not because of what I do. And I'm like, and I feel like there's more of it now because of the divisiveness. I'm just getting it from both sides in different ways than there was when I was like, hey, can I play? No, you're a girl, go away. I'm like, okay.
Well, you're such a unique position. Obviously, Eric and I are in that position. So that's good that we have your opinion there, because that's I've heard other friends of mine that are female say the same thing. Is that, it used to be, or at least this is what I hear from friends my age that are also female, is that when they wanted to play in the 70s or 80s, there was no question. Yeah, you could sit down and play. And it's actually got more restrictive as time goes on, not more accepting. You figured it would get more accepting. And it's like you said, it's like they're always waiting for, what's the poison pill here? Why do you want to play with us? What's your reasoning? Or it used to be just like, yeah, anybody can play. And I told this story.
For a good amount of decades, there was the, hey, come and play. You're cool.
Yeah.
Early on, it was, no, you're a girl, go away, kind of, because it was, or more
it was
so like
war gamers. It was all these war gamers in the 70s and 80s that were playing D&D now. They're like, oh, girls don't play war games. So,
well, I played war games, but but I played war games when Games Workshop literally would not let women play in their competitions, apparently, for some reason. I'm like, what? Okay, anyways, because women were a distraction. That was
of course. You guys are,
whatever.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm like, but I dealt with some people at the table who were like, "Oh, shut up, sweetheart. Let the real gamers play." I'm like, oh.
I'd love to.
And that's also, in video games, that was more prevalent for longer. I dealt with in MMOs where as soon as they heard my voice, in a first-person shooter or in an MMO,
still happens a lot.
As soon as they heard my voice, it was all of a sudden I lost cred. Where I went in, I'm like, yeah, I can tank, and they're like, oh, your class can't tank, and it's like, and then people are like, no, she can tank. I'm like, thank you. And they're like, fine, I'll give her a chance. I'm like, I actually
is good.
It's like, oh, you don't know, what your class is supposed to do, so shut up and be cute, sweetheart. I'm like, I'm not good at being cute. Sorry, I'm just not good at being cute.
Well, I'll say, Alice, I play a lot of online gaming, and I in the group I play with, there's a few girls in that group. And yes, it still happens. We'll be all together, and as soon as they hear their voice, it's one of two things: either, oh, hey, baby, what's up? Hey, and then the girl gets so mad because then they're not a part. The guy's like, hey, do you want some guns and some because I play Fallout 76 online. Hey, I got all this stuff. Like, I don't need anything. I'm fine. No, here, let me give you some stim packs and that. I don't need it. Leave me alone. And
let me shoot stuff.
Yes, and the opposite is they're like, oh, you don't know how to play, man. You're a girl. Girls don't. And typically, I will say the person who says that is usually some dumbass teenager who just, I don't know what they're doing. The older guys were just like, come on, guy, come on. And it's usually a young guy is like, oh, man, girls don't know how to play games. Why is she in your party? We're like, block, dump, you're out, you're gone, because she's good, knows how to play the game, but it's so that lives on.
That does and in every aspect,
gamer mentality.
I've played video games, I've played tabletop role-playing games, I've played competitive collectible card games, and I've played board games. It happens in every gaming arena. It's fine. I've dealt with it. The one message I would say, because about this, many years ago, there was where I was living back then, there was a women's geek club that was starting up through Meetup. And I said, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I get to meet other female gamers and geeks who like all these weird things that I do. So I applied, and they had this whole application process to see if you were geek enough. And when they read my application, they're like, yes, please, please, please. And I said, cool. Just one quick question from me. My whole gaming crew are guys. Can I bring one or two of them for any of these events? And they're like, no, men make us uncomfortable. That's why this is a girls' club. And my opinion is, if you want a seat at their table, you better give them a seat at your table. So immediately I said, yeah, this isn't going to be the club for me. I appreciate that you guys appreciate me, but this is not the environment I'm looking for. I got hate mail from their administrator saying how I was an anti-feminist, I was a sex traitor, I was traitor.
How dare you? How dare you, ma'am?
How dare I? Because et cetera, et cetera. But to me, blur the lines. If you want to see that their table, give them a seat at your table. And yes, around certain guys, my physical body language changes. Like you can see, I think, as I was talking about these men that start to get a little bit strangely, strange. I'll use that as the euphemism. I start, my stance changes, and I definitely get a little bit more testosterone-y, because that's the way I've learned. I've learned basically, if I don't know somebody, if I don't know the people I'm playing with, there are certain things that I will avoid playing at that table. Like, I will not play a female character, I will not play a cleric, etc. There's just certain tactics you learn. But the more that you expose them to, hey, girls have a place at your table, the more they're like, oh, more girls can come and play. So blur the lines, in my opinion.
Perfect way to handle it.
Oh, good point. See, this is what we need to come. We got to have her on the show over. These are some hot opinions here. They are burning hot. And Eric, I can't say these things. This is perfect that you can say them, because you're absolutely right. I think that mirrors a lot of our own experiences. I told Eric, or I told us on the show before, we had a friend who, when we started playing D&D, he brought his girlfriend, and after he quit, she still played with us for 2 years, which I thought was hilarious, because it just made him so mad. Because he go, are y'all still playing D&D with my ex-girlfriend? Like, yeah, we are, and she's a great player too. It just pissed him off so much. It's like, D&D is not a girls' game. Like, she's kick ass, man.
You're the one that brought her.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, well, I just brought her because she was bored sitting at home, and now she took and he didn't want to play D&D anyway. So like, she wants to play. She likes to play. So,
Good.
Just shut up and tough luck.
Get her into other games.
Then that's true too. It's most people that
I know there's not many omni gamers like me that like to play everything. I need more hours in the day.
Well, you'd be smart. You see a lot of that. You see a lot of that in video game or online games, because I have so. My story is weird, because I just got an Xbox a few years ago because my grandson and I wanted to do something together. We both bought Xboxes. So I just got into this whole online game culture. So I'm playing a lot of catch up. But the girls that I game with, I'm a weird gamer. I only like 2 or 3 games, and that's all I play online. But people online, especially the girls, they play all sorts of games. You'll see them, because when you go on Xbox, you can see what game they're playing, Halo or Call of Duty or whatever. And I'll contact, like, what are you playing tonight? Oh, I'm the group, we're in Call of Duty, we're doing a raid. I'm like, okay, what are you doing? Well, I'm doing Fallout 76, or one of my other 2 games I play. And they're like, oh man, that's boring, man. They call me Grandpa Mike. Grandpa Mike, you need to get some other games going there. And I'm like, but I just like my little games I play, my 2 or 3 little games. But yeah, the women on there, they will play all sorts of games. It's not just for, and that's how they tell me, especially when they're playing shooter games, it seems to be the worst games for people being really like, hey, girl, you can't play. You don't know how to shoot things. And then, usually it's some stupid 16-year-old, and then they smoke them in the game. They beat the absolute crap out of them. And then they're like, well, I guess you can play. You're pretty good. Like, well, yeah. So that whole aspect is still around. It's definitely around. I just don't see that at the role-playing game table anymore. I'm surprised you still get people that won't let you play role-playing games, because it's just so weird to me.
I've seen it at the role-playing game table, but the other thing is that it also very much varies, because where I know I'm one extreme of hardcore gamer. I've met women who sit down at the gaming table literally to trap men into relationships. I have several very entertaining stories about this. I have several very entertaining stories that I will not share on air, but I have met women who show up to gaming conventions to play D&D games because they were told by their friends that it was a great way to meet men, and ended up marrying one or more said men.
Wow.
Well, I guess,
and then stop gaming as soon as that ring was on the hand. Game was stopped.
You know what? If you are a woman looking to fish for men, there is no better selection of potentially unattached males than the gaming convention.
Nothing going on.
If you can weed out the wheat from the chaff, God bless you. But I'm going to guess that the majority of that wheat is already taken, because
I've seen it, and what one said person almost caused a wipe at my table because of certain behaviors. It was really entertaining when I was GMing. They opened a hatch and they just walked into the 25-30 foot drop that was dark pitch black because they literally did not look in because they were so distracted. It was really entertaining, and I'm like, should I kill them? Should I not? Should I kill them? Should I not?
I had one of my favorite stories is that we had an open Undermountain game went on for several years where anybody could just show up. I mean, if you knew a friend of a friend, you brought them and you just brought whatever characters, and then you all went down to Undermountain and came back. And we had a few diehards that were with the groups for years and years, but then we'd have these drop-ins. And so we had to have a rule. I guess I'm not proud of it now, but it was the no spouses rule. Because we had way too many, and it was inevitably a guy that wanted to play, and he brought either his wife or girlfriend, and either the wife or girlfriend absolutely did not want to be there and was just there because boyfriend and or husband said, you got to come game with me. And that was prevalent. Or we sometimes had B, where boyfriend and girlfriend or husband and wife decided that they were their own team. And so no matter what the party was doing, they would either try to kill everybody in the party, do their own thing, and they had their own, like their sign language, they do this, like this. And they would basically disrupt the game because they would have their own thing going on in the middle of the game. And so we did a no spouses rule eventually because it got so bad that we couldn't just have a guy and a girl come play that knew each other because it just got so terrible. They could not just play the game. There always had to be some kind of subcontext. Now I don't know if that's the same now. This is 25 years ago, so maybe
I've dealt with a few groups like that my significant other will go and vet the group out to see if they're safe for me because of certain health conditions, and I will get into a little bit of that. But in one case, he went in and vetted, and he's like, "Hey, this group's pretty cool. Hey, I would like to bring in Alice," and they're like, "Oh no, blackball, no. Woman, spouse, no. Woman, spouse, no. Blackball." Yeah. And then my significant other went and started saying, "Well, here is her gaming resume." And they're like, "Fine, we'll give her a chance." After I played with them for years, the GM kept inviting me into additional games that I could not join for one reason or another. But yeah, it was just really funny because they were very.
You were one of the good ones. See, you were one of the good ones, though. You were actually a gaming spouse that actually enjoyed gaming. Now, I did run.
Well, I was a gamer before I met him.
Okay,
exactly.
I was a gamer before I met him, and this is also why publicly. In gaming communities, we don't advertise ourselves as significant others because we know that'll immediately come in with, "Oh, Alice is the lesser gamer," and it's like, no, she's not. So
she's just gaming because he's gaming.
Yeah, it gives it automatically the wrong impression. So immediately we come in as friends. We come in as people who know each other. We come in as friends to any table or to the gaming community. That's how we outside of circles that know us, like you guys know who my significant other is. Zach knows, but outside of that, on BWK, other stuff, we don't tell people who my significant other is.
He could just say like, "Hey, I just picked up this broad outside, and she looked like she wanted to game.
I just picked up this bum outside. He wants to game."
Yeah, so I don't know who this dude. I found a dude outside. He looked like he looks like a gamer. I don't know.
He really wants to roll some dice.
Pretty well. No gamer funk. I think we can keep him.
Yeah, he really wants to roll some dice. So I figured, take some pity on him, and yeah, exactly.
That's good because you do have a good perspective. I think I love your perspective because Eric and I this is such a foreign perspective to us that it's good to hear it. I mean, it's wild to hear these stories.
Well, I also come in with a different perspective than apparently what I'm supposed to come in with as an Asian woman, because I'm supposed to be more leaning towards other things, but I don't see it that way. I see, the potential. I like to try and see the potential of where everything can come together rather than dividing everything. I like to blur the lines. I like to bring everything together. I like, hey, these gateway games that'll show you a little glimpse into my culture, my background, and then let me shove more at you later. I like all these options because it's potential. And I think one of the things I love about this hobby of ours It's the potential to learn about yourself and others and to grow as a person, not just, and to grow in a safe environment where you can view things from an alternative lens, where you can kind of view it from, you know, the third person aspect, and you can take lessons you learn and better yourself from it. So I'm kind of weird, I guess. Come together, guys. Stop arguing and caring about the
You're
stupid
good
things.
weird. That's good.
Yeah,
There's
That's
always going to be noise. There's always going to be noise. I know you guys wanted to talk about a specific topic, and I'm going to try. So if you guys want to do that, I'm willing to do that a little bit.
Okay. Well, we'll just I
got myself a little pumped up for it.
I know you're full of energy, so we're gonna let you bring up what you want to bring up, and then we'll steer it along. So why don't you bring it up, talk to us?
So I have a number of what people call invisible illnesses. I have some chronic medical conditions that have hounded me all my life, and I try in general online to hide them, and most people will see me as pretty healthy. Unfortunately, these health problems do cause me to go dark and disappear from the world from time to time. And this past year and a half, that happened, where some of these chronic medical conditions that were undiagnosed ended up being I started losing feeling in my hands and feet. My fingers went numb and my toes went numb, and that's how it started. And I was still plugging through. I was still doing Frog God stuff. Pex was asking me to do stuff, and I'm like, yeah, even though I couldn't feel my fingers, I was still trying to help him with the Alyssa stuff. And then it just got worse to the point where I was waking up and I was unable to move my limbs. I was unable to move my arms or legs or both for hours, up to hours. And we were trying to go through everything we could to diagnose it. And at one point, I ended up in the hospital for a different medical issue of mine. It took them I have anaphylactic allergies to certain things. And I had molecules of exposure to carnauba wax, which is a coconut family palm, which is a newish deadly allergy for me. And it took them 26 hours to stabilize me in the ED, in emergency department. It was crazy, because for anyone who understands medical stuff, they hit me with 0.3 epi in one thigh. They would give me nebulized epi. They would hit me with 0.3 epi in the other thigh, and they'd shoot me up 50 Benadryl IV. And this was happening as soon as basically my heart rate would jump up to 220 from the epi, and as soon as it came down to the 180s, they would shoot me another round with the epis, because I was just not stabilizing for 26 hours. So they were actively risking cardiac arrest, and they even had one doctor, I've been in and out of hospitals all my life. Hospital's my second home, but it was so bad in this one case that I've almost never seen a doctor sitting outside one emergency department room's door for hours, and I had a doctor sit there for about 4 to 6 hours, never moving from the spot, because my nurse never left my room, because it was just she's getting worse, she's stabilizing, running out there, and he's like, well, we've given her everything, she knew exactly what to ask for, we've given her everything, just give her more. And that's what it was just give me more and more and more. Ironically, when I went in, I said, you guys need to give me 75 Benadryl because 50 won't be enough. I am extremely tolerant of it. They're like, let's give you 50 and see how it goes. In the 26 hours, they gave me over 700 milligrams, and I was still wide awake, did not fall asleep at all. So after that, they were worried about cardiac issues, because they were, pumping me full of epi for hours and hours and hours. So I was put into cardiac unit for a couple days. And during that, some of these, because it was some of these stuff that was happening to me was exacerbated due to the inflammation of the allergic reaction and medications. So I was unable to move my limbs for hours, and and I was having these weird seizure-like episodes that they could not diagnose as seizures, but they were seizure-like. And so they diagnosed me as somatoform seizures, which, if anybody who knows me knows that I am bright and cheerful and really well adjusted to the fact that I am severely screwed up. Okay. I have no qualms about the fact that I'm screwed up. It doesn't bother me. Just a matter of changing the way that I adapt to the world. But coming out of that, that's what they said. My primary care put me through a bunch more tests, couldn't find anything. I got to the point where I was bedridden, unable to move. due to excruciating pain, even on levels on decent levels of morphine. I was in excruciating pain. I was in contact with my primary care doctor on her private line, on her home line, and she said, "Yeah, send her to the ED." We went to the ED. They sent me home after giving me more pain meds. Then I went back to the ED again a week later because it was just getting worse. And they ran a bunch more tests. And during the 5th MRI or so, something like that, like I was so medicated, I don't know how many MRIs and CTs they gave me. I'll be very honest. I know that was multiple. They found that there was something going on in the back of my neck that had previously been going, well, it's inconsequential. It's weird. It's probably nothing because it's weird. It's not like, if it's a bulging disc, they can tell it's a bulging disc. If it's certain things, medical science understands. What I had, they didn't. So first thing in the morning, a very, very skilled surgeon came in and spoke to me and said, "We're going to take you in for emergency surgery," because I was apparently days away from neck down done kind of thing. And, I was days away from getting an epidural that could have paralyzed me. Things were just not looking good. So he took me into surgery, and it was a really, really big mess that he found back there. A lot worse than what he expected. So the first thing he did when he saw the mess was he told them to call in one of his colleagues to show off the mess. And so I had 2 surgeons work on me. Because of my medical history, they didn't want to have to open me up multiple times. So they did a massive amount of work that rarely is done in one surgery on me in one surgery. I had ACDF from my C5 to C6. I had my C7 completely taken out. And replaced with cadaver bone and titanium plate. I had he had to do a little work on my T1 as well, so I had to be in the full chest piece as well. Then the funny thing is, going along with some of my medical mutations, he found some things that were completely befuddling that were super ultra rare, which is the fact that I had a cervical disc that was growing out of my spine. So your spine's here, and my neck is on this side, and this is my, the back. And I had a cervical disc grow out of my spine and into my neck like this. So
Wow.
Pre-surgery, he ran me through some tests, and he had me do some swallow tests, and I was in pain. And he's like, "You shouldn't be in pain in that. Maybe some of this is somatoform." Well, after he found that cervical disc, he excised a piece of flesh and cervical disc about yay big, cut, slice, done. He was like, "Oh, well, that would explain why she was in pain when she swallowed." Okay, we got that. Then he found out that there was one of my cervical discs had grown over my lifetime, which I've gotten back more function because of this. But over my lifetime, it had grown and tied knots around my spinal cord. So he and the other surgeon had to drill, saw, slice, and take apart that cervical disc tiny bit by bit by bit by bit to take it and unravel my spinal cord and then reseat my spinal cord. So after that, I have had some time to spend in recovery, and I am working 2 to 4 hours every day on recovering.
So anyway, let me just interrupt you real quick. So this is why you are such an inspiration to us, because we have known this story for the last couple of years. We don't talk about it online, obviously, because you're a private person, but we saw you get worse and worse and worse. And this surgery has been an absolute miracle from heaven, as far as we're concerned, because they seem to have solved a lot of the issues you had, and it's just amazing. And so we are so happy to see you like this. That's why you're such an inspiration, because you had to go through this for so long without knowing there was a solution that would make you better. Honestly, let's be honest, Alice, most of these cases you just get worse and worse and worse. And finally it just goes down to, you don't have any quality of life. And you were so lucky that you had this happen, and it's just amazing to see the change in you from the last few years. But I will say one thing is, you've always been, even when you were really bad, you've always been very upbeat person. You were just an extremely upbeat person with that smile on your face all the time, and just even when you were feeling bad. But we're just so happy to see you back, and to see it seems like a lot of your issues have been solved.
A lot of my recent issues, yes. Unfortunately, I've got genetic testing and all these other things that are trying to deal with some of my other ones that are not going to fix it. And I'm fine with them never fixing it. I've had it since I was born. I have some weird genetic issues. And since I was born, no big deal. It's something, people in my life have adapted to. And so people that I keep in my life, they're cool with it. They adapt to it. I adapt to it. We're good. But yeah, and a very, very long time ago, I learned that you can be like a lot of people who suffer some illness and, just let it win. Brandon's studying to be a nurse, and they're talking about inner locus and outer locus. The two patients with the exact same problem of same risk level of diabetes and cholesterol go to the doctor and are given the exact same speech. One decides, okay, well, it's in my family background. My mother has diabetes and high cholesterol. Just give me a pill. It's going to be the way that it is. This is just my life. Da, da, da. I'm resigned to being, in this problem for life. The other one goes, nope, I'm going to start exercising. I'm changing the way I eat. Da, 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 da. Goes back. Both people go back 6 months later, and one person has turned it around, even though they had exact same risk. The other person is exponentially worse because they gave into it more. And the inner versus outer locus. For me, how I viewed it is I can be miserable. That's easy. Being miserable is easy. But it's a lot more rewarding to claw until your nails are bleeding, until your fingers bleed, and claw into that light and positivity, because at the end of the tunnel, it's a lot more rewarding. And I'm a real I'm a geek on a lot of subjects, but neuroplasticity is something that I love studying. And so I do neuroplasticity exercises on, trying to keep this positive mood. I don't think very much of a lot of aspects of myself, but like when it comes to being a positive person, I know I'm that. It's kind of weird because I don't think I'm very attractive. I don't think this and that and that. But when it comes to being happy and being positive in other aspects, my brain's well programmed. So much so that when you're coming out of surgery, there's a zone called twilight, where you are you're completely in lizard brain, completely, not in control of your faculties. And most people that come out into twilight, they are aggro. They're like mean, just, angry, upset, uncomfortable. When I came out of twilight after my spinal surgery in a massive amount of pain, I smiled, looked up at my aftercare team and said, thank you so much for taking care of me. Hi, my name is Alice. I was in the squeaky Minnie Mouse voice. And I was just like bright smiles and going, thank you so much for taking good care of me. And they were like,
what's wrong with this chick? Yeah, something's
up. They actually came and talked to me about it after I was out of twilight and told me that that's what I did.
Nice.
Proud of
my wife is always so grumpy when she comes out. She just had eye surgery last week, and she was so happy when she came out. I said, and I'm thinking, whatever they gave her, man, let's give
her more
in there, because she's usually kind of grumpy, but she was so happy. She's like, I got my eye done. I'm so excited. I can see through my eyes, and I was just like, wow, okay, where's this person been for the last few medical procedures? But no, she's my wife's such a sweet person, and she's so upbeat, and so that was great to see her, come out of the eye surgery and all happy and excited.
How is her eye surgery? How did it go?
We're good. She's finally she had her whatever surgery, LASIK surgery, and they wouldn't do it for years and years and years, and she finally is getting it done. And she got one eye done last week, and she's getting another eye done this week, and she's so excited. She won't have to wear glasses anymore, which actually, I'll be honest with you, I think she looks super cute in glasses. She looks so adorable in glasses. So I like girls with glasses. I think glasses are just, unless you're wearing like weird cat eye glasses or something, I think glasses are so attractive. But yeah, she's happy because she says she can see so much better now. And so I'm so excited for her, having this done, because LASIK, it's like a miracle surgery, man. You get that done and boom, your eyesight improves, better than 20/20. It's better than 20/20 by the time you get through with it. It's just a really simple, 2-hour operation. And they just do one eye 1 week and the next eye, and then you're done. So yeah, she's really excited to be able to not have to wear glasses, and she's tried everything. She had contacts for a while. She's tried everything. Nothing ever worked for her. So I would like to have a surgery, but I'm a diabetic, so they're real antsy about working on diabetics. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to get that surgery, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm happy she's able to see really good.
So she got the laughing gas version. She got the gas version.
Oh yeah, she was out. She was totally out. No, she was.
But
totally
she
out.
wasn't intubated full surgery. mode. Okay. That's a different type of medication. So. Right. Those medications, most people come out a lot happier. They're a little grumpy, but most people come out a little giddy. It's laughing gas or happy gas, the happy gas version.
I can talk. Well, we can talk about my colonoscopy a few weeks ago.
Oh no,
no. I don't know what I had then. But
you're telling me it's kind of tapped out at that point.
I think your wife already said you're not allowed to talk about that on air.
No, too personal. Yeah.
But yeah, I know that a lot of people have been wondering where I've been. What I'm going to say now is that I have a lot of medical issues. I hide them on air, online, and I'm very uncomfortable talking about it. I do agree that people who have been like, where's Alice? Where's Alice? Do deserve some answers. So I'm giving you some. What I will say going forward is I have a lot of medical issues. So unfortunately, as much as I'd love to do as much as I'd like, I can, and I try. There are bouts of my life where I disappear for periods because I end up in really bad situations. This spinal thing, as I've told Bad Mike and Eric Tenkar before we went on air, is nothing compared to what I went through in 2005. They now know what that was. So I've come back from, and it's who I am.
We're just happy to have you back.
I'm going to be here for a long time. Don't worry.
We missed you so much, and we knew the reason you weren't here, and it just sucks because you are such an upbeat, creative, fun person to have on to talk to and have online. So it just sucked, but yeah, I've just been of all the things that happened good this year, there was a lot of bad this year, but there was some good stuff. And your operation turning out like it did was one of the best things, honestly. Seriously, that's one of my top 10.
I'm a bionic woman now. I'm bionic.
You're a cyborg. You're a freaking cyborg.
Well, actually, isn't that like Wolverine or something like that?
Yeah. I named the cadaver bone Jane for Painkiller Jane.
Oh, the old comic book character. Yes. Mm-hmm. I love that character.
So she's Jane.
Great.
Very nice.
But that's great. I'm happy. I just want to say, coming up here, the show before Christmas, I'm going to get a little sentimental, but I'm so happy about you. I'm so happy Eric seems to have recovered from his issues, because when we started the show, a year ago, we're like, well, you know what? Let's just do it, because we kept saying we were going to do it. We never did it. And I said, he almost died like 3 or 4 times that last year. And we said, let's just get this.
Little steps amongst friends. Come on.
Yeah. And so he's been fine. He's been pretty good the last years. This whole 2021, he has been fine. And I guess my health's been okay. I did my colonoscopy. Unfortunately, as everybody knows, my friend Doug passed away this year from colon cancer. So I've been upbeat, and I went and got my colonoscopy this year. Everything was I had a pretty clean bill of health. I had a lot of polyps, but no cancerous anything. So I'm happy. I'm happy that all my friends are doing well, and that I guess I'll be here for a while too. So hopefully we'll all be here. I'll be here for a few years. I'm hoping. Unless we all get hit by a bus tomorrow, then hey, we're screwed up.
You're not allowed. Deny.
I'm a fighter. Even if I get hit by a bus, trust me, I've been through worse.
I know.
I'll jump back. It'll just take me some time.
Come back. She'll lift the bus off her and go, fuck off.
I'll come back to haunt you and go, make you, change what Ghostwriter means. Make you put down in words.
Well, I'm glad you shared with us. We haven't talked about this at all, but I'm just glad you shared, because I think seriously, you are very inspirational, because there's a lot of people, especially all the people that's been getting sick the last few years because of COVID and everything. There's a lot of people that sometimes feel like, I'm just going to give up because I can't deal with this. And you've been very inspirational. Anytime I have a bad day or think something's bad, I just think, well, you know what? Alice would be kicking ass right now. I've got to do it. I got to be at least strong as Alice. I mean, I got to be able to do this. So you are an inspiration to us. I want you to know.
There are days that I didn't think I'd be able to push through another day too. Everyone has those days, but I really hope that in general, most people for most days are going, hey, it's, let's keep going and, be brighter about it. I try.
We want you to be in the gaming world, because we want David Knives to come back. We want you to write more, because this is if you haven't got this is a really good. Moondaughter's Fate's really good. Definitely go to Spiral God Games and get the PDF of that, or buy a physical copy. I don't think we have any more physical copies. I think you have to buy PDF. So yeah, we want to see you in gaming, creating games and stuff, and playing in games.
I'm working on it.
By the way, are you playing any online games since you've been feeling a little better?
I've been easing back into gaming with a small group of friends who I was playing off air. So actually, one of my groups was trying to basically help me keep my mental sanity through the worst part of it. So going up into my surgery, we were starting a game before we knew that I was going into surgery. And while I was still in the ICU, I told them I would play from the ICU if necessary with no voice and just be typing. I was out of the hospital before we were back to playing. But
now that's dedicated. That's dedicated. Yes.
Yeah, the GM said, I expected Alice to be out for like 3 months, at least a month, but a couple months we'd be out of no game. But like we skipped one game because it was we skipped one game. And,
good deal. Yeah.
I'm just not on air much right now because, it takes a lot of work to do that, as you know, a lot of energy, a lot of work. So I'm not on air very much except for on other people's podcasts. But it's something that I'm working towards. And
definitely.
Brandon's been working on a super special secret project, changing up an old system, writing a system of his own. So in one of his,
he bought Star Frontiers. No, I'm just kidding.
I've been playing in. He's been running an adventure path using his rule set, and I've been playing a minstrel in that, and it's a very different play experience because from first level, it's a lot more dynamic. So I'm moving my party members around the board. At first level, I was moving people on my turn so that we could get people into position. And the monk and the fighter have been fantastic with it because the rogue monk was like, "Oh, I get in position before it's my turn, and here's my full attack." And then the tank, I'm just like, "Okay, I'm going to move you to make you provoke a bunch of attacks of opportunity," and so he's moving to provoke, so then on my action I can slip in because he's just this heat sink. So yeah, it's been fun. But yeah, I've been playing a little bit. I want to play a lot more. There are a lot of games on my want to play list that I haven't gotten to play yet. And like I said,
if you feel like running a game, we're going to do North Texas Online again this year. I think that's become its own thing now after the last 3 years. So we'd love you to run a game on online. I think people would love to play one of your games.
Depending on when that is, I definitely am interested.
First
right now,
week of June next year.
Okay, well that should be doable by then.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
I'm not in a condition to GM full time right now, and that is one of the reasons I haven't been writing because GMing helps with my creative juices for writing. So I got to do a short 3-hour play test with a few people to play through some ideas that I had recently. I GM that, and it gave me some interesting answers because somehow in the way that I had the story framed in my mind, there was absolutely no combats. There were potentials for a lot of combats to be placed into different areas, and I now know exactly where those are. And the group had a blast. It was, the group was absolutely like, I can't believe this person and that person missed out on this because this person would have loved it. And I'm like, I just GM'd a horror game again, didn't I? And they're like, And I'm the person who goes, guys, I hate horror. I don't want to play horror games. Okay, I don't want to play or run horror games. And I'm like, oh, I just GM'd a gothic horror. They're like,
well,
yeah.
If you feel better by June. If you feel better by June next year, I mean, definitely. Or heck, if Brandon wants to run something, we don't mind who wants to run games online. We love more online games. So that's one thing we're trying to integrate more into North Texas is online gaming. So yeah, if you feel like it next June, we'd love to have you run one. I think you'd have a full table. I definitely would.
Awesome. Yeah, I will not commit right now because I'm told that this is a bad thing to be doing, but I will say that is definitely on.
Well, I'm not going to jinx you. No, I don't want to jinx you. I'm not going to jinx you. You're not committing. No,
I'm working to add I'm working to add a little bit more every day right now, and right now I'm barely keeping my my head above water. And for some reason, before I finish getting my head above water, I add something so I get myself to here, and then I push myself up. That's how I've been going every day.
That's how you added an inch, right? That's the whole.
That's process. How I added an inch. Yes, actually, it was the fact that they added this big, huge metal, metal weird mechanical thing, so it added.
That's okay. When you get to your 50s, you're gonna find yourself losing like half an inch. And you're like,
seriously, go look at my Facebook profile picture before the surgery, and then look at me now. I actually have my neck is so much longer.
Is that a good thing, or that's a good thing, right?
That's a good thing. I didn't notice how much my neck had disappeared over the years as the damage was slowly deteriorating.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was winding down.
I don't know where my neck is. It's kind of it's here somewhere. It's all this
secret,
fat.
Mike. It's a secret.
There's a little beard and the fat. I don't really have a neck anymore. It's just this big round ball on top of this big chubby body. So
Thank you guys so much for having me on. And
hey, thanks for coming on. We had a blast.
Come back whenever you want.
Whenever you want.
Or myself, we will find time for you. Because I swear to God, it's always a great time when we have you on the show.
Thank you. I always have fun with you guys too. And I'll try and stop by the tavern more again as things keep
definitely come by. We'd love having you pop in every once in a while.
Your presence always lightens up the room. My presence probably stinks it out, but they used to me anyway. So
thank you for the compliment. I really appreciate it.
My wife would tell you I probably stink out the room for other reasons, but that's besides the point. Mike, shut. You're not my wife. You're only my work spouse once a week.
No. So happy. Well, we've got 3 days to
get Mike a wig so that he can do the whole spouse thing properly.
Yeah, no.
We'll get you a nice redheaded wig because you're nice and fiery.
No, I don't like redhead.
Exactly.
I'm not gonna make. I'm not making out with Eric either.
Yeah, no. It's okay. There is nothing sexual about having a work spouse.
Oh God, I need a drink now. Okay, listen to this. Hey, so what's the schedule like this week? Christmas is Saturday, so you gonna do a show Friday night, or how's that gonna happen?
Okay. So Joe and I haven't decided whether we're going to go live around 1:30 or if I'm going to record it at 1:30 and do the first premiere where we launch it at 8 o'clock, and maybe I moderate it or maybe I don't. But Joe and I are doing something on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. Rach and I will be recording earlier in the day to make sure we get the gamers' health out there. So yeah, there'll be something.
Awesome.
I've never skipped a blog post for a holiday. I'm not going to skip the live streams for the holidays, but we'll just adjust around it. I'm sure it'll be holiday themed. But
well, next week we'll try to have some kind of a wrap up show. I have a couple ideas we can talk about next week because we'll wrap up the year. We can wrap up the year in stupid and say who was the stupidest this year. I mean, there's a lot of candidates for stupid of the year. And a lot of candidates.
In less than 2 hours, Star Frontiers becomes free again.
Let's buy it, baby. Let's buy it. Come on.
I'll be the next person to file a trademark.
We'll just own it for like 6 months. We'll just say we owned it for 6 months.
Yes, and then we can pass it on to Wizards of the Coast. Like I'm sure it's going to happen anyway.
Well, it's cheap to buy the license. It's expensive to renew the license,
and it's or to even keep it. Okay.
Yes, or to even keep it. And this is what the Margaret Weiss Productions knew, and so they would pick up a license for dirt cheap pennies. They would throw out as many books as they could quickly, and then they would just never renew. So then you'd never get the supplements you begged for.
That was their whole thing with like Marvel Heroes and all that stuff.
Marvel Heroic.
This is expired.
Dresden Files, Firefly.
This is sniping expired trademarks.
Yeah,
which is just. Childish.
They did it to so many amazing, and they did great games. It wasn't just that it was bad games or anything. They did amazing games, and so you're like, please give us another supplement. Shoot,
you had a 3-year contract, and that's it.
Yeah, license is done. We're never putting anything out again.
Go screw. As always, folks, forgive me for having to say this every time you hear me. We're in the midst of the world of COVID. I am not telling you what to do. I'm not saying get vaxxed, don't get vaxxed. I'm not saying wear a mask, don't wear a mask. I'm going to ask you to use your common sense and consult a medical professional that knows your comorbidities, your medical history, or lack thereof, and be guided by their advice because it's the long haul, okay? There will be no end to COVID, in my opinion. It's just going to become endemic as opposed to a pandemic. Learn to adjust to that new reality. Be safe, be well, God bless, roll those dice, and I'll be back tomorrow. Maybe live stream Friday, maybe not, but we'll be on it here in any case. Again, thank you to Alice, thank you to Mike, thank you to our people in the comments. You guys were all great, and gals.
Yeah, you were.
And I'll be back tomorrow.
Thanks for having me on.
Later.